We continue with the second philosopher of evolution, namely Theravada. We have almost finished the structure of his theory of evolution we have already given. His evolution is different from the evolution of Bergson. Theard's theory of evolution embraces the whole of reality. And in order to highlight that point, he refers to three spheres: geosphere, biosphere, and noosphere. This is not three compartmentalized divisions, but only for the sake of making us understand. He has made this distinction between geosphere, biosphere, and noosphere, the sphere of the matter, the sphere of life, and the sphere of consciousness. Now we are just speaking about the first two spheres. So there is before I go into that one, so there is something unifying element. The whole evolution is unified by something he calls it as a spirit. Therefore, the theory of evolution is referred to as spiritualization. The evolution, the growth of the spirit passing through the matter, life, and consciousness. But there is something, the link, the thread that links the whole evolution is the spirit. And so the matter is not simply pure matter, geosphere. It is a spirit in matter. And then that gives rise to life as we understand it, starting with the smallest, the simplest cell, and then becomes more complex and more complex. And then finally it turns out to the next sphere, that is the sphere of consciousness, that is human being. Now, all these spheres, he uses the expression not simply sphere, but new genesis, biogenesis, geogenesis. The meaning of genesis instead of sphere, genesis means in the process of becoming. Geosphere is in the process of becoming. And and biosphere also is not a compartment of life, but rather in the process of becoming. And then that becoming comes to consciousness. Consciousness also is not merely new sphere, but rather a new genesis in the process of becoming. So the humans, they are also in the process of becoming, and that becoming, he has given a little more clarity because we are in that sphere, and how this becoming takes place he calls it that becoming as socialization. Socialization. When the humans, when they grow, when they evolve into greater, higher stages, they become more socialized. And use the two expression in terms of community and universal love. When we are open as to embrace every human being, when we are able to live together, we are growing. So the growth is to be seen, the criterion by which we are able to see the human growth is not the scientific growth, although he was a scientist, but it is not the scientific growth, the achievement that we have made, but rather in terms of socialization, that is more specifically universal love and community. And thus we are growing. So therefore the new sphere is in the process of a growth, moving towards a higher and higher. And then the whole thing is moving towards a climax. That is what I am summing up the last part of this evolutionary process. The final phase of evolution may be called Christogenesis. So the final phase, it is not another sphere. This new sphere or new genesis turns out to be Christogenesis. Moving towards the climax. And why Christo? Because the climax is Christ. Christ, okay, you use the name Christ. Where Christ is seen as the organic and physical center of the universe in the further process of evolution. So humans are evolving in universal love, and as a process of passing through the universal love, we are moving towards the climax point, that is Christ. In Teilhard, Christogenesis ensures and paves the way to the supernatural destiny of the whole evolutionary process. So there is, as a believer, that also may have influenced him, but it is in keeping with his thought. The whole process is moving, not a goalless movement to a particular goal. That is the difference between the other thinkers of evolution. There is no, simply this whole growth is referred to, but here there is a fixed point towards which the whole growth is moving towards. Thus the evolving universe follows a directed and ascending genesis from matter to life, from life to spirit, and spirit to Christ. That is why we use the Christogenesis, matter to life, life to spirit, or life to consciousness, and then from consciousness to Christ. So the whole thing is moving as in a sort of a pyramid. The whole evolution takes place that way. From spirit to Christ, and which he calls it as the omega point. So this point, the climax, is called omega point. In fact, Christ is not used much. In his philosophical vision, he uses the expression omega point. Omega is the last letter of Greek alphabet. Alpha, omega. On Easter Day, they use that expression. Alpha, Christ is the beginning and the end. So omega stands for the end. He uses the expression omega point. We are all moving towards that point. The growth in the unification of mankind is guided by the ultimate center of unity, the omega point. So the whole movement is guided, directed towards this last point. The end is directing. The whole movement or evolution through geo, bio, new sphere, through the hyper-humanity. So again we said, it is not simply a one human being becoming a superhuman being, a superman, but rather the whole humanity is growing. Only when the humanity grows, we reach the climax. Through the hyperhumanity is directed to the omega point, which is same as God, the goal of cosmic history. The cosmic whole history, all happening, is not simply a happening. In Nietzsche and in Heidegger, they speak about happening. Just one after another, events are taking place. There is no goal, there is no fixed point. But then here, everything is, God becomes the end of all the cosmic history. History is moving towards a goal. Therefore, the Western history or the Christian history is a linear process, a straight line process, moving towards a particular point, and that is the God or the omega point. There is a fundamental harmony between such a scientific or philosophical vision and a religion that proposes the world's eventual completion and unification in a personal center, the omega point of history, Christ who returns at the end of time, that is called parousia. Now, After having developed his philosophical vision of the whole cosmos, the whole history, moving towards the climax omega point, then he says there is a correspondence between that religion, of course that religion is Christianity, where the whole universe is unified, or whole history is moving towards the coming of Christ, second coming of Christ. That in theology it is called parousia, the second coming of Christ. So there is a correspondence between the religion that holds to the second coming of Christ and the philosophical vision that is proposed by Teilhard de Chardin. So that second coming of Christ is called as parousia. So there is a correspondence. Now whether one has influenced the other, that's a different question. But our thinking is of course influenced by many factors. So this also may be a factor, but then he remained true to the scientific reflection and or true to the religion. Therefore, that is the reason why he said in the beginning itself, science, philosophy and theology cannot be separated. It is the one process of thought. There is no dichotomy. We cannot separate. And he was a good example for that one. Just coming to the conclusion, Teilhard's vision of the world is charged with the sense of optimism. Why there is an optimism? Because it is moving towards a climax which is God. The arrival of God and the moving of humanity, there is a meeting together. God is arriving, the second coming. That is in Christianity, that is same as omega point. So there is a sort of an optimism is there. It is not simply with a total darkness, it is moving somewhere without any aim, not a half-assed, but there is a goal. So when you have a goal clear, there's an optimism is there. When you are going for something that we like, naturally there is optimism. There is a joy in the heart and smile on our face because moving towards something that is bright. Therefore, Teilhard's theory is charged with a sense of optimism. For him, evolution is orthogenetic. So few adjectives I have given in the note. You can see for yourself. Orthogenetic, that means the evolution in which all the various variations are following a definitive direction. Although changes are taking place, but changes are not taking place simply moving this side or that side. There is a definitive direction is there. Everything is moving towards that one. And that is in one term it is expressed by a term called orthogenetic. Secondly, evolution for him is the development of spiritual. I already said something that links the whole cosmos. The whole evolution is the spirit. The spirit is unifying. It is the thread that links from lower to the higher level. It is spiritual, and then evolution is continuous. It is not just jumping from one to the other. A continuous growth is taking place from lower to the higher, and that higher is not stopping, it is still moving. So a continuous evolution. Evolution is a creative transformation, transforming and also creative. Transforming into a creative way of transforming into a higher form. So therefore it is a creative transformation and it is theistic. That means his evolution goes well with theism, a personal God. That is theism. And he explained that the motive force needed for evolutionary process comes from the upward striving consciousness, the within of cosmic matter. And what is that within of the cosmic matter? The spirit. Something that is inner. And that is the one which gives the force. And it is moving to the end point, that is the omega point. He has shown that science, philosophy, and religion are not opposed to each other. That is, we have already seen. And his thought gives us a deep sense of being intimately linked with the whole cosmic process, moving towards a grand finale. So we are part of that one. We are, suppose a morcha, a procession is moving towards meeting the king. Being part of that procession, he feels great. That is a human terms. But here in the Teilhard's understanding of evolution also, we are in a procession of evolution, and we are part of it. Part of what one? Not simply part just being in a part of one of the stages, but we are moving towards a grand finale. The grand finale, that is a French expression, but now it is used in English. Mostly it is used for music. The climax or the climax of a musical composition is called the grand finale, moving gradually through the zone and finally kind of a climax. So all history, all evolutionary history is moving towards a grand finale. And so to be part of that one, it gives us some sort of a feeling of evolution, sense of satisfaction and joy, because we are in that process of movement. But then it is by being human being, we don't move. We move. We happen to already come to this a level of evolution, but we have a responsibility to continue the evolution by entering into the process of socialization, universal love and community. That characterizes the specific characteristics by which we can say that we are still growing. Otherwise, we happen to be humans, but we don't know whether we are moving or not. So we can get the real satisfaction and contentment only insofar as we are in that process of, we also move, not allow ourselves to be moved. We also move, but along with others. Then we feel that gives us a deep sense of satisfaction and joy and optimism. So this is in a summary form, the whole picture of Teilhard's theory of evolution, which has already one thought. The whole reality is moving, evolving, and it is not simply jumping from one to the other. That is the difference between the three evolutionary thinkers, Darwin, Bergson, and Teilhard. Darwin was a scientist, and his concern was how to explain human being coming from monkey, or anything for that matter, from the lower stage to a higher stage, how this jump is taking place. That was Darwin. From this stage to the other one, you are trying to explain that one. And so this is the explanation of the phenomenon. The phenomenon, he finds higher form of animals. From the lower, how it has come to the higher. So then he was able to explain. Only when he came to the humans, and from the lower one, that is the animals, and then he calls the monkeys, how we have come to that one. There he could not explain satisfactorily. I am speaking about whom? About Darwin. There he could not explain. Therefore he uses one expression, the missing link. The missing link. There is something, a link is there that links the humans with the lower form of animal. So there is something which he is not able to, that link is missing, but the evolution has taken place. So what he explains it by acknowledging, I am not able to find that link, but something is missing, that enables the humans to come to this level from the lower one, because he finds the jump is too much. From monkey to the humans, the jump is not that short. Therefore, he was aware of that one. He calls it the missing link. That is Darwin. Bergson, he also, just like Darwin, limits evolution only to the living beings, starting with the lowest form. So life emerges somewhere, sometime, and then it moves. Matter is putting a restriction, a control, and then, but still, in spite of that one, the life, this is called consciousness. The consciousness, or in the lower form, it goes on moving, and what is that movement? That moving aspect is called life impulse. Life, elan vital, life impulse. So it is not a explanation of the jump as Darwin has done, but rather he is a thinker. There is a difference between a scientist and a philosopher. So Bergson was a philosopher and was fully aware of the scientific progress of evolution, but then he finds the evolution as a flow, as a gradual flow, and it goes on, and then comes to the human being, and the human being, the specificity of human being. I am recapitulating what I already taught. The specificity of human being, where the humans are least restricted by the matter. Still matter is there. Matter is weighing us down. But in comparison to the non-human animals, we are much more free. Our freedom, our memory, our joy, they show that we are different from other lower type of animals. So that is, but then you come to Teilhard de Chardin, we find the evolution is not limited only to the so-called living being. It envelops the whole of cosmos, starting with the matter and then moving, not jumping, moving. And what unites? The spirit. The spirit, that is the link, that is the thread that links the whole evolution, coming to not only just starting with not ending with the humanity also in the process of growth, not one individual person, the whole humanity in a process of growth, process of evolution, and in terms of community and universal love. Therefore, the growth of humanity is referred to as socialization. Coming to the climax, the omega point. An omega point, therefore, everything is moving toward this climax of evolution. That is Teilhard's evolution. So there is a similarity, at the same time dissimilarity between the three thinkers of evolution. So with that one, we complete the third unit. Now before I close this unit, I just want to announce to all those who are attending these classes. It may be sent to you by some other way, but then the announcement is this one. Each house will gather, reflect, and then discuss. And for each unit, you discuss and coordinate the questions or the doubts that you have. Somebody send to my mail or to the principal, and I will coordinate, see, and then put a particular day I will respond to the various questions. Not all the questions in each house you have to coordinate, and not simply anything that comes to your mind. First, go through again and then try to discuss. Among yourselves we discuss. And then in spite of that one, something is still unclear, note them down. Somebody, one of you, one from each house, can send each unit by unit, you can send me or to the principal, or you can send me, I can coordinate, and send me anything that is still unclear. But don't just listening, just one listening, don't be taken as I have not understood. You have to struggle After having made the struggle, after having gone through again, after having discussed together, then in the light of discussion, something may come. Somebody note it down and then send to me. So unit by unit. At the earliest, better. So I take each unit separately and announce it, which day I am responding to the one particular, the questions that came for the first unit or second unit and so on. If there are not many in the first unit, I will combine both. So do that one at the earliest so that you will not lag behind. That is the announcement that I want to make to everyone who is attending these classes of mine. I stop now.